And joining us in studio is our old buddy, tech guy, John Hanlon. jhanlon.net is the website. John, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back, as always, Casey.
Absolutely. Now, you got a hold of me because now, of course, we're past the holiday season, so now they're starting to really throw the phones your way.
Yes.
And you've got the new HTC One M8. Now, tell us some of the unique details about this phone, though, man.
Yeah, so a very nice-looking phone. Right off the bat, you notice that 5-inch HD 1080 screen, which is on par with some of the phones I brought in recently and on par with the S4, though the S4 is getting a little old. So the HTC One M8, which is the current version, is the sequel to the HTC One, which along with
which is a great phone.
Yes, along with the S4, those two were the top Android phones of the year last year, and certainly some of the most popular smartphones, period. And now we have the HTC One M8. And it has, like I said, a really nice 5-inch display. Camera-wise, kind of very, very unique on the camera. The main back-facing camera is 4 megapixels, which may sound low if you're familiar with what we're usually, smartphone cameras. But HTC says that they have expanded the pixels and put more work into the pixels, so those 4 megapixels will stand up to a 12 megapixel camera on another, leading smartphone.
And again, as having a wife that is a photographer, when she looks at megapixels, she goes, it doesn't matter. It doesn't do anything for the picture. All it does is mean that you can blow it up bigger. You will never blow up, enough megapixels to fill the side of a bus. You'll never do it, so it really doesn't matter. So again, the photographers know that. The average person thinks a megapixel makes a good picture. Yeah. It does not make a good picture.
Same thing I've heard. So it has the 4 megapixel back-facing camera. It also has a second lens on the back of the HTC One M8, and that is so that you can later, once you take the photo, you can actually change the focus point of it, which this works pretty interesting how this all works together.
Yeah.
So basically what you do is when you take a photo in the normal shooting mode, not panorama or anything like that, but just the normal mode, you can then go in and select a feature and tap on where you want it to focus. Now, it does have some limitations. It's got to be the right type of thing. So and the interesting thing is that more than changing the focus, basically what it does is it recognizes the shape of what you want to focus on, and it blurs out the rest of it. So yes, it kind of changes the focus, but more of what it's doing is it's blurring out everything except that shape that you select.
But this is such a cool feature, and the video advertisement for it, when you look at it, basically has 2 kids. One's a little bit closer to the camera, and then one's off to the right, a little bit further back. So it'd be like taking a picture. You take a picture of Tim and I, and then you could, punch my face on the screen,
exactly.
And I would be in focus, but Tim would be kind of blurred out. Or you could punch him in the face on the screen, and I'd be blurred out, and then he'd be in focus, which is really cool because, again, a lot of people who take pictures want to focus on something specifically. They don't want a full shot. Maybe you're doing one of those weird photos where somebody is like photo bombing you or something, and you just want to focus on the photo bomber.
Yes.
It's one of those when you see it things that people see, those memes that when you see it, so you've got to look for it. It's like, where's Waldo? Well, now you can actually zero in on where Waldo is. But it's a really cool feature, and it looks great. I haven't had a chance to play with it yet, but does it work? You said there's limitations, but yes. Overall, is it pretty cool?
Yeah, as long as you're... Now, the limitations is that it won't work. Like, if you are right next to me and I point at you and there's somebody, way across the room, then it's going to focus on you, and it's not going to be able to do a really good job with that person way across the room.
Okay.
But if the objects are near each other, it does a really good job, again, blurring out what you don't want to be in focus and then making sure that the focus is on exactly where you want.
Yeah.
So it does a really good job with that. Certainly, there is no other phone with lenses, any other major smartphone with the 2 lenses like this. So it's a brand new thing, and I think it does a really good job with it.
This is something that you do in Photoshop all the time with photos, and the fact that you just have a phone that'll do that, basically with the touch of your finger is really, really cool. So it essentially takes 2 pictures when you do the picture. Is that kind of how it works?
It doesn't take 2 pictures. All of the data is in one photo.
Just one file.
Yes. Huh? And because of that, it basically is taking the photo from 2 different angles, but it combines it all into one. There's another feature which is basically completely gimmicky and doesn't have a lot of practical application, but it's kind of cool. And that is that when you select it, it does a 3D thing. So if I take a photo, and because it has the 2 focus points, I can rotate the phone, and it's as if I'm seeing it from 2 different angles. So gimmicky, not really any practical use beyond just for fun, looking at it on your phone, but still pretty cool.
Yeah, but when you're at a bar and you've had a few drinks, it makes for a good time. There's no doubt about it. Now, what are some of the other things? I mean, that's a really cool feature, and that's obviously, it's big, its big item that is really going to set it apart. But what are some of the other cool things this thing does? It's got a really good screen, too.
Yes, it does. 5-inch screen. And the screen is an LCD screen, which there are advantages and disadvantages to that. It's going to give you a really, really good white color. But because it's an LCD screen, it's not going to be able to give you the deep blacks.
Yeah, it's racist.
So if you compare the blacks that it shows on the LCD screen, the S4 or another similar smartphone is going to give you those deeper black colors better than the M8 is going to do. But the M8 actually has much better white colors than the S4. So it's got the really cool camera on the back, and also on the front it has the best front-facing camera I've ever seen. The front-facing camera is actually 5 megapixels, so it's actually more megapixels than the back-facing camera because on the back they do the special thing. But that's the camera. It also has something called Boom Sound, which is HTC's really good sound quality that they put into this. And the way they do that partially is with 2 really nice speakers that are front-facing speakers. So most phones have back-facing
speakers. On the bottom or the back.
Yeah, it's on the bottom or the back. This has, on both the right and the left, it has the speaker. So it puts out by far the best sound I have ever heard. It blows the S4 out of the water.
It looks like they're kind of big, too. I mean, when you're looking at the screen for the speakers, I mean, they go all the way across the width of the phone.
Yes.
On the top and the bottom. So, I mean, it's funny because I've been playing with my iPhone lately, and, occasionally I'll have to, watch a video or something while Bree's doing her nighttime routine with her nighttime shows and everything else. And I have to, do the whole makeshift cup my hand to put the audio back towards me and that sort of thing. Because even if you have it turned all the way up, it's still really quiet. So, and these phones, though, they're starting to go towards, you're seeing a lot like, Beats by Dr. Dre and some of these celebrities coming into it. Is there a big backer for this, or is this kind of like HTC's own technology?
I believe it's their own technology. And again, it's called Boom Sound is what they call it. It's the front-facing speakers combined with some other technologies that just right now is leading the market. But everything is always improving. Everybody's always copying each other. We've talked about that many times before. So the speakers, front-facing, and the really cool camera are probably the 2 biggest features. It does have that aluminum build. It's looks a lot different than a lot of smartphones because of that aluminum build. And that also makes it a little bit heavier. It's much heavier than the S4 or other smartphones, considerably heavier than the iPhone 5S. Because it has that aluminum build, but what you get out of that is a really nice feeling, a little bit heavier device.
And if you get some of those lighter phones that are plastic, I remember going back to the Galaxy S2. I mean, it was one of those things where it was a really cool phone, it was really thin, but they always said, don't you dare drop it. Buy the biggest armored plating case that you could possibly find. So then this small phone becomes this huge, giant, heavy thing because you don't want it to break. Now this, my assumption is because of the materials used to build it, the theory is you don't really need a case for it.
Right. I'm sure that's a little bit of what they're going on or trying to do behind it. Is just because of it's so heavy duty that you shouldn't really need one. Now, still, I always tell people I would still get a case for it. I mean, even if they say that one drop the wrong way or you drop it a little higher than expected, and there goes your a phone that's really, though you pay a couple $100 for it, it's really worth about $500 or $600.
Yeah.
So I would still get a case, but yeah, really nice build design on it. One thing I don't like on the design is that it has the power button on the top of the phone.
Okay.
Which is actually, it used to be the standard for smartphones, but lately they've been going to the power button on the side of the phone, which I think makes it a lot easier. Just because the screens on the phones are so large that you've got to reach to get up to the power button on the top if you're just trying to hold it in one hand. And I don't think it makes any sense to have the power button on the top of the phone when you can have it, right basically where you're holding it already, and easier access. So that's one thing I kind of don't like on it is just the placement of the power button. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Do you think it has something to do with, especially this being kind of an audio phone, if you have it in your pocket? Because I know sometimes I'll reach in my pocket, I'll grab my phone, and I'll hit the power button by accident. You think maybe that might be their thinking?
Possibly. I mean, there you already have the volume button on the side, and so maybe they didn't want to put it on the same side as that. There are a variety of, there are always pros and cons. It just, to me, it makes more sense to have it on the side where it's easier to get to.
Now, right now, a lot of people are touting this as being the best phone.
Yeah.
I mean, on the market.
Sure.
Like
Absolutely.
Everything on the market. So we've seen a lot of sorry, I got my pepper spray and keys in front of you. But there might be some competition for this. So in just a minute, we're going to come back. We're going to talk with John Hanlon again. There might be a phone on the horizon. I know, shocker. On the horizon that will be competition for the HTC One M8. Hey, good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel. Back with John Hanlon. Again, his website, jhanlon.net. He's doing a review of the new HTC One M8. Now, some people asking, okay, they know you're bringing the Verizon phones, but what carrier is this phone going to be available on?
The M8 is out right now, and it's available on all carriers.
See, look at what we did for you. We gave it to everybody. So it's not like you have a just Verizon or anything like that, but actually you can get this anywhere. Doesn't matter what your carrier is.
$199.
And it's a great phone. I mean, really, I actually like it. It's I don't like my phone anyway. I just like the gadgets I can hook up to my phone, but again, the wife is still on the hunt for the new phone. But while people are saying that the HTC One M8 is the best phone out now, on the horizon, I know, shocker, Samsung is in the picture again, and they may have an HTC killer. So tell us about the new S5.
Right. So like I mentioned earlier, the S4 and the HTC One, the original, were the two top smartphones of the year last year. Well, in just a couple weeks, I believe April 11th on most carriers, is the S5. It's the Galaxy S5. And it is really going to give the HTC One M8 a run for its money. It has similar specs and actually a little larger screen. It has a 5.1-inch display, but it's actually thinner and lighter because, again, the aluminum in the M8 makes it heavier. So the S5 is going to be thinner and lighter, and it has a couple of crazy features like the M8 has. The S5 is going to have a fingerprint reader, so like the iPhone 5S has right now. And then on the back, it's actually got a heart rate monitor. So this is definitely a first for any smartphone. So on the back underneath the camera, it reads your finger or something somehow, and you just put your finger on there, and it will read your, give you a heart rate monitor.
Now, you don't have that one yet, but my assumption is because everybody wears it on their arm while they're working out, I wonder if you'd be able to read it from that angle.
I don't know. I don't know how that's all going to work.
Typically, you don't from the arm, but I just kind of wonder.
Yeah, I don't know how that's all going to work. But on the front, a fingerprint reader, and on the back, a heart rate monitor. So those are two very cool things. The only major smartphone with a fingerprint reader right now is the iPhone. So giving them a run for their money. And I think from what I've seen of the S5, I think it might have a leg up on the M8, actually. Like I said, it's thinner and lighter. I like the fingerprint reader. And it actually, one thing, not only is the display just slightly larger, but it's actually more than that larger because when you consider that the M8 has the buttons for it, the home, the back, and the menu buttons are actually not built into they're not in the same place on the phone. So they move around and they take up a little bit of the screen space. So though the displays are similar sizes, the S5 is actually even going to give you when you're using the phone, it's going to give you an even larger display because the menu buttons and those, the home button and stuff like that is built right into the front of the phone, not into the screen.
Yeah, and the M8, again, they're in the screen.
Yes.
They're not in the phone itself, so they do take up a little bit of the space. Now, Tim was saying that he likes that feature on his phone.
Yeah, it's something I've gotten used to. I mean, it was a little strange to start, but it's something then, if I'm going landscape, it'll flip it over to the side.
And John, you were saying you didn't like it.
I don't like it compared to my S4. I just like knowing those buttons are always in the same place. And the problem also with the M8 is if you're watching a video or something, they disappear. So then you've got to tap on the screen again to get them to pop back up, which you don't run into that certainly don't run into it with the iPhone. You don't run into it with the Samsung's phone. So
got it.
That's a thing but if you have an HTC phone, again, if you have an HTC phone, if you have the HTC One, you're probably going to like the M8. If you have an S4 or another Samsung phone, you'll probably like the S5 better. But from what I've seen so far of the specs and the early information of the S5, I think it could be even better than the M8. So again, always try them out and see which one you like better.
And it's also going to come down to looks and everything. For people that it's just close, I mean, looks could be a thing right there. And I haven't seen any pictures of the S5 yet, but I can tell you right now, staring at the M8, and we will post a link to a TechCrunch review also underneath John's link on our Facebook page. You will see it up close and in detail. It is a beautiful phone. I mean, it's brushed aluminum. It's got gray with the black screen. It's HTC, which is a great company. I still go back to my HTC Evo was still way better than my iPhone 5. Even way back, I still prefer it. But it's just a good phone. It's funny because you were talking about the front-facing camera being a more powerful camera than the standard camera.
Yeah.
And I was telling you that I was surprised that it's taken so long actually for a company to make that move, considering so many people use the front-facing camera more than they use the regular camera. Selfies, chatting on the phone, Skyping, that sort of thing. It just seems like that's the primary camera that most people are using right now. You'd assume it would have flipped a long time ago.
Sure, and this isn't a unique feature to just the M8. Phones have been doing this for around a year or so. But there's the feature where you can take a photo with the back-facing camera at the same time as you're taking a front-facing photo. So if you want to take a photo of you somewhere, and then the back-facing camera takes a photo, obviously, of what it's facing, and then you get a photo of yourself. So it's a picture-in-picture, basically. You're in the corner or whatever, and this is not unique to the M8. But again, it's just more usage of that front-facing camera. So when you use the front-facing camera, it doesn't just mean, a selfie with just you. Yep. But it can be pretty cool if you're somewhere and you want to show where you are, but you also want to show your face or whatever. So that's pretty cool. And I think more and more people are going to be using the front-facing camera.
And it also has, and again, I mean, you can get any app out there on Android to do this, but it also has this feature when you swipe to the left, it's kind of like a news, almost like a news reader. But one of the things I didn't like about that is it doesn't appear that you can add in your own feed. But they have many feeds for you to choose from, Associated Press and the big, news agencies
Twitter
and a couple
and
of others. Yeah, and then your social media, though, is also tied into it. It's almost like they're kind of trying to tap into what Windows is tapping into with those tiles that you have. Just swipe to the left, and you've got all of your social media kind of right there in one place.
Yeah, so this is pretty cool. It's called Blink Feed, and like you said, it can combine your Facebook and Twitter posts from your friends, and basically puts it in a really nice visual format that you can scroll through, and you'll see photos right from it.
And it looks like a magazine. I mean, just, yeah.
Right. And it's built right into the phone. I'm not even sure if you might be able to turn it off. I haven't looked into the settings.
It'll get rooted out.
Yeah.
Someone will root it, and it'll be gone.
There probably is a way to turn it off, but by default, it's right there to the left of the home screen. And it's really nice. I've enjoyed using that, and there's all kinds of ESPN and AP and Twitter and Facebook and all of those outlets, a lot more. And it's right there, and you can flip through. And
instead of getting into an app, finding the app, getting into it, and seeing the update, you can just swipe left, and you kind of see the update. Okay, so, I mean, once an hour, you can poke in on the world, without having to open an app and then close it and that sort of thing. So it's just kind of nice to have something like that, almost like changing the channel. You go to the news channel real quick on television just to figure out what the headline is right now. Is anything bad happen, that sort of thing. But it's just nice having that at your fingertips.
Yeah, and there are other options if you don't have the M8 and you want something like that. There's an app called Flipboard, which has been out for a while. I think it started out on the iPad, but I think it's available on all platforms now. It's kind of like an RSS reader. It just puts it in a more visual format. The photos show up larger, and they put it together in a really nice way.
Yeah, and I use Feedly. I personally love Feedly. Been with them for years, and it's a similar thing to what Flipboard is, and you can totally customize it for your own taste with your own feed. So if you just want to read blogs, or if you just want to deal with social media, or if you want to deal with, just music news, you can do that. You can set it up. It's all customizable. So this really isn't yet that we know of. I mean, that might change in an update, but it's still kind of nice to be able to poke in at the world just with a swipe instead of actually having to open an app. Anything else we need to know about it? Costs, assume a 2-year deal for this thing. How much?
Normal contract, 2-year contract. It's $199 on all the major carriers. So go in and try it out. And again, I would suggest if you're looking at a phone like this, I would suggest waiting those just a couple weeks until the S5 comes out and take a look at that compared to the M8 and see which one you like better. But certainly a really great phone here, but I think the S5 is going to be a really nice phone.
And the S5 is going to be available on all of them too,
all
right?
the carriers.
Yeah, usually the Samsungs are. So, and again, Samsung, HTC, great companies. They both make really good devices. And this thing's a monster. I mean, you got your S4 here. It's bigger than, it's not Galaxy Note big.
No.
But it's like somewhere in between. I mean, it's a big phone, but it's comfortable. It's still thin. Yes, it's got a little bit more weight to it because of the materials, but I think that's good. I like a higher build quality myself. But again, as always, go in, test it out. But if nothing else, look at this thing. I mean, it's just absolutely gorgeous. So go check it out. Again, you can get it on any of the carriers. John, appreciate you joining us, man. Thank you very much. You're going to come back when you get the 5, I assume?
Absolutely.
And then we'll go ahead and we'll talk about the differences between the M8, which we just reviewed, and then, of course, the Samsung Galaxy S5, which is only going to be out in a couple of weeks. So if you're in the market for a new phone and you're not a dedicated HTC fanboy, you may want to wait for the S5 just to see if, the heart rate monitor doesn't appeal to me, but maybe it does appeal to somebody. They're looking for the active crowd. That could always be possible. All right, jhanlon.net is his website. Go check him out. We've also linked to his Facebook page on our Facebook page. You can go to 953mnc.com. Click on the Facebook icon. You can get to John that way on social media. And, of course, John, appreciate it. Next time you get the phone in, come let us know. We got more coming up on News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.
News Talk 95.3, MNC, Michiana's news channel. Casey Hendrickson.